President Trump is doing just about everything in his power to quash a story that just will not go away. The Jeffrey Epstein scandal.
President Trump is doing everything in his power to suppress a story that simply refuses to disappear. The Jeffrey Epstein scandal. And that includes escalating personal attacks. Just yesterday, Trump intensified a surprising and very public fallout with one of his most loyal allies, MAGA Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, calling her a traitor after she pushed for the release of the Epstein files. This comes as Trump uses the weight of his administration to redirect attention away from himself, demanding a justice. Department probe into Democrats. Connections to Epstein, an investigation Attorney General Pam Bondi quickly agreed to pursue, despite previous DOJ assessments that found no evidence worth acting on. But Trump now faces what could be the biggest rebuke of his second term from his own party. Later this week, dozens of House Republicans are preparing to vote in favor of releasing the Epstein case files. This is happening just as newly released emails surface mentioning Trump by name, though he has not been accused of any criminal wrongdoing. Still, Trump made it clear over the weekend that he wants no discussion of the matter. He insists the story is nothing but a distraction from his administration's economic achievements, calling it a Democrat hoax designed to overshadow Republican successes. A panel of political reporters, Politico's Dasha Burns, CNN's Jeff Zeleny, CNN's Isaac DeVere, and The Washington Post's Mariana Sotomayor weighed in on the growing tension. They noted how remarkable this clash is, considering Marjorie Taylor Greene's history as one of Trump's most unyielding supporters. She came to Washington in 2021, fully aligned with Trump's MAGA movement, even wearing a MAGA hat on the House floor. Now Trump is calling her a ranting lunatic and accusing her of betraying the Republican Party. The panel suggested Trump's attacks may be less about Greene personally and more about sending a warning to other Republicans. Any dissent will be punished. But Greene's recent actions, criticizing Trump's foreign policy, questioning his economic performance, and pushing to release the Epstein files, may be giving other Republicans permission to break ranks. This fracture is being felt across conservative media as well. Even Fox News, Newsmax, and major right-wing influencers have pushed back on Trump's newly floated 50-year mortgage policy, signaling deeper divisions. The White House recently tried to pressure lawmakers like Reps. Lauren Boebert to withdraw support for releasing the Epstein files, a move that failed publicly and embarrassingly. With Republicans increasingly willing to support transparency, analysts say this moment could signal the early stages of Trump's lame duck phase, or even preview the post-Trump era within the GOP.
And that includes name-calling. Just yesterday, the stunning fallout between him and one of his biggest loyalists intensifies as he attacked MAGA Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene as a, quote, traitor amid her push to release the Epstein files. This after using the power of his government to try to change the focus of the story away from him, demanding a Justice Department probe of Democrats' ties to Epstein, something Attorney General Pam Bondi quickly said she would do, despite DOJ's past assessment that there wasn't evidence worth pursuing. But to Trump's dismay, he's about to face the biggest rebuke from his party of his entire second term, when later this week, scores of House Republicans plan to vote to release the case files, all as some newly released Epstein emails show Trump mentioned by name, though the president has not been accused of any criminal wrongdoing. Still, he made clear this weekend he does not want to discuss any of it.
We think it's bad to talk about it because it gets away from the subject of how well the Republicans are doing. We have the greatest economy. We have the largest investment ever made in our country's history. We have all of these great things happen. When you talk about the Epstein hoax, what happens is you're not talking about how well we've done. This is a hoax put out by the Democrat, and a few Republicans have gone along with it because they're weak and ineffective. But this is a Democrat hoax to get away from the fact that they just lost the shutdown and they've lost the elections. They've lost the big election, to me, in a record number.
All right, we have an excellent panel to break this all down. Let's go Politico's Dasha Burns, CNN's Jeff Zeleny, CNN's Isaac Dover, and the Washington Post's Mariana Sotomayor. Good morning to you all.
Good morning.
Nice to see you all. Okay, so when Marjorie Taylor Greene first came to Washington in 2021 as an unflinching Trump loyalist, someone who was MAGA through and through, wore a MAGA hat to the State of the Union on the House floor, and now Trump is putting out messages like this over the last several days, calling her a ranting lunatic, saying she's gone far left. She's a disgrace to our Republican Party. She's betrayed the entire Republican Party. She turned left, and then calling her a traitor just yesterday. Okay, first of all, wow.
Wow.
I was not expecting that. What is he trying to do here? Is it just to send a message to the rest of the party that he will not take even an ounce of dissension here?
Well, I think the big concern here is Marjorie Taylor Greene could be creating a permission structure for other Republicans, other MAGA Republicans, to start to disagree with the president, to buck him on some of these critical issues. I mean, look, Epstein opened the door, right? And it's still one of the biggest concerns for the White House in terms of how these votes are going to go in the House and then in the Senate. But Epstein, followed by some dissension on the president's foreign policy. Now, most recently, the suggestion of a 50-year mortgage. Even Fox News, Newsmax, influencers on the right are against that policy. We are seeing these fractures among the base that is just not something that the White House, especially President Trump himself, is used to.
Yeah, and it's, is it just what Trump always does here, which is anytime there's someone who criticizes him, he goes after them, whether it's Liz Cheney or any other. You can go back down the line of Bob Corker, and for many, many years this has been his MO. Is it different though because it's MTG and who she represents?
I mean, I think the actions of the president are similar. I mean, we knew, obviously, as she has been sort of rising in her prominence, going on The View in recent weeks, and really going after Speaker Johnson, and then really not backing down at all on the Epstein matter and other things. It's not just that. What I'm sort of struck by in this is her criticism is pretty broad-based. She's talking about affordability.
Healthcare.
She's talking about exactly. And things that look like, I still support you. She always sort of phrases it with, I still like the president, but. And those buts are getting pretty significant. So, Dasha, to your point about the permission structure, that is going to be interesting to see how many Republicans obviously join the ranks of voting to release the Epstein files. The White House still wants to keep that number down, but the reality is they know that there's very little.
Are they going to push very hard to try to do that this week? Or are they?
It's unclear. The pressure campaign last week to try to get Lauren Boebert to not sign the discharge petition, it failed spectacularly, and it was sort of an embarrassment. I mean, having a rank and file member of Congress over to the White House in the Situation Room complex to have this meeting, she ended up not removing her name from it. So we will see what the numbers are, but I am told the White House is still trying to keep them somewhat in check. We'll see if that's 75 Republicans, 100 Republicans. That would be extraordinary, but you just get the sense that things are a little bit different now. It's too early to call the president a lame duck, there's no doubt, but you can just get the sense that things are slightly
That's
different.
what's really scary for
different.
this White House about this is the idea that a lame duck period is looming here, and I think this gives that little flavor of it.
And it could be a window into the post-Trump era. Here's what MTG said about in responding to all of this. Among the things that she said the Americans wish he would fight this hard to help the forgotten men and women who are fed up with foreign wars and foreign causes, are going broke trying to feed their families, and are losing hope of achieving the American dream. That's what I voted for. Is she more in line with the base in some ways than Trump?
Well, look, I think the problem that she's hitting at here is that Donald Trump has not been able to answer the question why. Why is he fighting so hard to keep these files from being released? He's not explained that. He's also not explained why prices are not down when his entire campaign was really based on that idea that he would be attacking prices. And he has said, oh, maybe it's the leftover from the Biden days, but we are 10 months into the Trump presidency, and prices, it's not like they've stayed high, they've gotten higher. People are seeing electricity bills that are higher, they're seeing grocery prices that are higher, and the public seems to be associating that with the tariffs, and certainly Donald Trump does too, given that he despite this argument that the tariffs are because of a national emergency situation, that's how he gets around the law, and that he can just do it himself, is just haphazardly lowering them, including on the groceries the last couple of days, just saying we're going to make coffee cheaper. Well, if the tariffs are getting rid of the tariffs of making coffee and other food and meat cheaper, then the tariffs made that food higher, the prices higher. And so that when Marjorie Taylor Greene hits on these things, it is this like, I thought that Donald Trump was saying he was the fighter for these things, and he has not shown it in her mind.
Yeah, and this is obviously comes ahead of this vote that's happening, we expect on Tuesday in the House to call for the release of the Epstein file. The Republican leadership was forced to do this despite the push by the White House to try to kill this effort for months. Now it is finally coming to a head on the House floor. But look, I want to first look at the polling about where the public stands at large about the issue of the Epstein files. Overall, just 19% of the public approve of Trump's handling of this, and that includes just 10% of independents. But that Republican number is pretty interesting. 44% of Republicans approve of Trump. I mean, that is unusual because typically Trump's like the 90% on most issues when it comes to Republicans. It's 44%. But it also speaks to why we expect in the House a significant number of Republicans to break ranks here. What are you hearing from your reporting in whether they can reach that critical threshold, which is 290, which is a veto-proof majority in the House? What is the likelihood of that?
I think it is possible, and the reason why is because the Epstein issue remains the singular issue that we have seen Republicans publicly flip on the president, publicly not attack him necessarily, but want to continue releasing the files. I mean, there are a number of even vulnerable Republicans who say, yeah, I'm going to sign on to this, and even some more hardliners who say that they will do this. However, I think Marjorie Taylor Greene has also pointed out that Trump is using her as an example. If you start to speak out against him, it is possible that he's going to come after you the way that he is now coming after me. So she even herself is saying maybe the numbers are not going to be as high as we once thought. But the fact that Speaker Johnson is going to try and bring this up onto the floor to make sure it has a 2/3 majority, it's still putting Republicans on the record, even if it doesn't pass.
You could still vote against the president, though, without sort of doing what Marjorie Taylor Greene has done. She's sort of gone out there, but that's why the roll call is going to be interesting, particularly for Republicans like Ashley Hinson, for example, from Iowa, who's running for Senate. This is becoming an issue in the 2026 campaign. So I think it'll be interesting to see how many Republicans support this without ever sort of really talking about it publicly. I mean, the president can't attack everyone to the degree that he's done Marjorie Taylor Greene.
But that's why the Democrats forced this to not be a voice vote, which is what the Republicans tried last week.
Roll call.
They want everybody
on the record, them on the record,
yes.
So then this will be an issue in the campaign.
For sure.
There is one thing that Republican lawmakers are more scared of than President Trump, and that's President Trump's base. And right now, Trump and his base are not on the same page about this issue and a number of others, and that is going to have an impact on how they vote.
She talked about Marjorie Taylor Greene, H-1B visas and other issues that Trump is breaking with his base on.
As the House prepares for Tuesday's high-stakes vote on releasing the Epstein files, the political ground beneath the Republican Party continues to shift. Despite months of pressure from the White House to bury the effort, GOP leaders have been forced to let the vote move forward. Polling shows why only 19% of Americans approve of Trump's handling of the Epstein issue, and among independents, that number drops to just 10%. Even among Republicans, approval stands at 44%, far lower than the typical 90% support Trump usually enjoys within his party. The panel noted that this underscores a growing disconnect between Trump and his base. Marjorie Taylor Greene has been vocal about this divide, arguing that Americans feel Trump is fighting harder to block the release of the Epstein files than to lower prices, ease economic burdens, or focus on domestic concerns. She points to rising electricity costs, grocery bills, and the impact of Trump's tariffs, issues that many voters directly feel. Trump, meanwhile, has not clearly explained why he opposes releasing the files, which further fuels skepticism. Greene's criticism touches on a deeper vulnerability: Trump's promise to tackle high prices. Despite blaming leftover conditions from the Biden administration, prices have continued to rise during his term. Trump has recently taken steps to reduce tariffs on certain goods, including groceries and coffee, an acknowledgement, his critics argue, that tariffs were a driving force behind rising costs. On Capitol Hill, the mood is shifting. Vulnerable. Republicans and even hardliners say they will vote to release the Epstein files. Speaker. Johnson plans to bring the vote under rules requiring a 2/3 majority, effectively putting every member on record. Democrats intentionally blocked a voice vote to ensure Republicans cannot hide behind silence. Some lawmakers now fear that Trump is using Marjorie Taylor Greene as a warning, a demonstration, of what happens to anyone who challenges him publicly. But others believe the political risk of defying the base is greater than the risk of defying Trump. Republican voters increasingly want transparency, and that pressure is influencing members' decisions. If the House reaches the 290 votes needed for a veto-proof majority, it would mark an extraordinary rebuke of Trump from within his own party. Even if it falls short, analysts say the vote will expose deep fractures in the GOP in shape. Campaign politics heading into 2026. Many Republicans prefer to quietly support the release without openly confronting Trump, hoping to avoid becoming targets of his attacks. In the end, the panel concluded that on this issue, and several others, Trump is no longer fully aligned with his own base, and that misalignment may be the most significant political force shaping the Republican Party right now. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and see you in the next video.